I'm delighted to welcome you to this 9th edition of the International Maritime Business to Business Conference, which is part of the Lagos International Maritime Week. As is our custom, we usually mirror the International Maritime Organization's theme for the World Maritime Day every year. And so this year we shall be dealing with navigating the future of Africa's marine and blue economy, safety first.
In the maritime world, safety is not merely a regulatory obligation. It is a critical component and an enabler of economic growth.
Our role is always in conjunction with other relevant security agencies like the Navy and other safety agencies such as NIMASA.
So issue of bias is a very critical thing that women face in the industry.
I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, especially for your patience and for your active participation, your questions, and your interactions with everybody that has come here today.
You can do more assistance, but the more you clap, the more you work faster. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, MC. That was a very good introduction. And thanks to the organizers of this event, the distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm here today on behalf of my amiable Executive Secretary, Engineer Felix Omashola Ogbe, FNSCE, the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board. It's an honor to be here at the 9th edition of the Lagos International Maritime Week of 2024. I acknowledge all the leaders of the industry and opinion shapers, business people in the house. Acknowledge representatives of the Nigerian Navy, other activists, other organizations, companies, businesses, regulatory agencies, agencies of government, and everyone here. I acknowledge your presence. And I just have to stand on the protocol that has been established since yesterday. And it's also very interesting that this is the 9th edition of this Lagos International Maritime Week. That's awesome. This event is a significant platform for discussing the future of Africa's marine and blue economy. And I'm excited to share insights on this crucial topic. So going forward now, whatever you hear is what my boss, the Executive Secretary, wants me to tell you. The blue economy encompasses all economic activities related to oceans, seas, and coast. It includes fisheries, maritime transport, tourism, offshore energy sectors, and so on. Currently, the blue economy contributes significantly to Africa's GDP with immense potentials for further growth and development. For instance, the fishing industry alone supports millions of livelihoods across the continent, while maritime transport, logistics is a critical component of our international trade. Slide 3. Africa is rich in marine resources, including fish, stock, minerals, energy resources. However, we face challenges such as overfishing, pollution, and inadequate infrastructure. Despite these challenges, there are successful examples of sustainable practices in that sector, even in Africa and in Nigeria. For instance, South Africa has implemented effective maritime protected areas, and Kenya has also made giant strides in sustainable fishing practices. Nigeria is not also doing too badly in that space. This example highlights the potential for positive change and the importance of sustainable management. One of the key challenges in the marine sector is safety. Common hazards include accidents, piracy, environmental risk, which can disrupt economic activities and endanger lives. As we all know, notable incidents such as piracy attacks off the coast of Somalia underscore the need for stringent safety protocols. Learning from this incident is crucial to improving safety standards and protecting our maritime workers. To address these safety challenges, it is crucial to implement robust safety regulations, provide comprehensive training, and leverage technological innovations. Automated systems and advanced safety equipment can significantly reduce the risk of accidents in the sector. Continuous training and capacity building for maritime workers are also essential to ensure they are well prepared to handle safety risks. Sustainability is at the heart of the blue economy. As some of you who are from the riverine area, you realize that the way they catch fish in those days is not as robust as the way they catch fish now. The quantity of catch and the quality of catch is not like what we used to have back in the olden days. We have seen successful examples of marine protected areas and sustainable fishing practices even in Africa. These initiatives not only conserve biodiversity but also build economic resilience. For instance, eco-friendly tourism in places like the Seychelles has boosted local economies while preserving natural resources. Adopting such sustainable practices ensure long-term we support indigenous oil and gas services companies. We have activities targeted to the youth like the NOCTEC Hackathon, which encourages technological innovations, have made positive impact in that sector. Additionally, we have our marine vessel utilization scheme, which focuses on increasing the utilization of Nigerian-owned marine vessels, ensuring compliance with safety standards and boosting local participation across board. We have vessels owned or Nigerian flag vessels that are even operating in the international waters as we speak due to the support of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board. The blue economy is rapidly growing, with sectors like marine renewable energy seeing significant turnovers. Emerging areas like blue biotechnology, desalination project offer substantial economic and job growth potential in this era. Investing in this sector can unlock new opportunities for our continent. Offshore wind farms in countries like Morocco, for example, are already contributing to energy security and economic development. And I believe we can do so locally in Nigeria. In conclusion, the future of Africa's marine and marine and blue economy is bright, undoubtedly. But it requires our collective effort to navigate the challenges as mentioned earlier in this address and seize the opportunities. I urge all stakeholders to work together towards a sustainable and prosperous blue economy. Thank you all for your attention, and I look forward to all of us having a fruitful and robust discussion as we go forward in this program. Thank you.
Ben, shall we put our hands together once again for that excellent presentation? Moving forward, we shall start our plenary session 3 on the topic offshore and seabed mining. On the platform, we shall be having our moderator, who is no other person than Mrs. Tony Yusuf, Marketers Energy. Ladies and gentlemen, shall we put our hands together as the moderator steps to the panel? You can do more by encouraging her. You can do more. You're welcome, ma'am. On the panel, we shall be having our panelists, Engineer Felix Omat-Sola Ogbe, Executive Secretary, Nigeria Content Development and Monitoring Board, NCDMB, who is fully represented by Mr. Silas Ajumun Jaye. Put your hands together as he steps to the platform. You can do more. The more you clap, the more you walk faster. Thank you very much. You're welcome, sir. Yes, sir. On the panel, we also have Anita Solari, Managing Director, Yao Insurance Broker, which shall be represented by Bolanle Anjori. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together as she walks to the platform. Welcome, ma'am. Still on the panel, we have Dr. Oladuni Owo, President, Women in Energy and Oil and Gas, which shall be represented by Ruth Chukwu Kazirim. Put her hands together as she walks to the platform. Welcome, ma'am. Chukwu Kazirim. Thank you, ma'am. At this juncture, I want to quickly hand over to the moderator to carry on from here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, distinguished guests, esteemed panelists, and the audience. I stand on existing protocols as established since yesterday. So I'm Tony Yusuf from Marketers Energy, and I'm honored to moderate this important session on offshore and seabed mining. Okay. At the Lagos International Maritime Week 2024. So as we all know, the offshore and seabed mining industry holds tremendous potential for Nigeria's economic growth. And beneath our waters lie valuable resources that can fuel our energy sector for decades to come. But harnessing these resources requires careful consideration of several factors, which include Nigeria content development, financing maritime assets, insurance mechanisms that safeguard investment, and of course today we'll also be looking at the role of women in this sector. A key priority is ensuring that Nigerian companies and talents play a central role in offshore operations, with the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board NCDMB, Making Strides. We will explore how we can further integrate local expertise and resources into this global industry. We'll also dive into the financial aspect. Okay? So looking at the NCDMB role, I will be calling on Mr. Silas Ajimijaye. Mr. Silas Ajimijaye, to please give us some insight on the role of NCDMB in ensuring local content in this very important sector. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Moderator. I've actually enjoyed interacting with you since yesterday that we connected on this very important issue. Now, I will introduce the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, NCDMB. Is one of those regulatory agencies in the Ministry of Petroleum Resources that was set up through a law of this country, Nigeria, called the NOGIC Act, the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Development Act of 2010, which established the board. And in summary, the work of that board is to be the catalyst for the industrialization of the Nigerian oil and gas industry and its linkage sector. Also, the mission of the board is to promote in-country capabilities for the industrialization of Nigeria in the oil and gas sector and all the linkage sectors that has to do with the oil and gas industry. And you see where the marine sector, the blue economy, is sitting in the middle of our work as a board. You all know that Nigeria, for instance, with the 9th largest in the world and the largest in Africa when it comes to do with a proven gas reserve. And you realize that a lot of business in the oil and gas sector nowadays is happening in the offshore space. So how has NCDMB promoted business in this area? One key aspect for you to know is that we have a framework that gives us the opportunity to work with organizations like NIMASA. For instance, we have this partnership. It is enshrined in our law to develop the marine sector in partnership with NIMASA. And we also have a 5-year vessel demand profile for the oil and gas industry. With this demand profile and the framework we have around it, we have a very robust sectoral working group in the marine sector. And we have supported numerous business people, companies in the marine sector ecosystem to do business in Nigeria. I was speaking today with someone who was the chairman of our Safe Working Group and a member of our board, and he gave me so many names of Nigerian businesses that are operating in the marine sector, and it's been very beautiful. For instance, I'll give you a good example of Ladol, which is an integration yard that we supported, and at an oil and gas free zone, which provide logistics and facility management to over 30 oil and gas companies as we speak. That is what I would call a flagship testament to the work of the board in promoting development, safety in the marine and blue economy. Finally, the provision of low-interest long-term funding through the Nigerian Content Intervention Fund has been wonderful in the sector. You have the Project 100 companies, you have a lot of other businesses having rigs, having all kinds of vessels in the areas that we didn't have Nigerians in the past. They are working there, a lot of them with high level of Nigerian human capacity, and they are operating at the highest level of safety and compliance with international rules and regulations in the system. So I think I will pause for now to let others speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Silas Ajimijaye. We've all heard so much that NCDMB is doing in promoting local content in the marine and offshore sector. So my next question goes to Ms. Bolanle Anjorin of YOA Insurance Brokers. So Ms. Anjorin, offshore operations come with significant risks, and insuring maritime assets is a complex task, we know. So could you explain the specific challenges faced in insuring marine assets in offshore environments, and how YOA Insurance Brokers approach these challenges to provide adequate coverage for these high-risk activities?
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. I think one thing that is very clear is that the role, first of all, the role insurance plays in the blue economy and, across various sectors of the economy. Without a doubt, especially with the current economic situation, right, businesses cannot afford, to not to have insurance, as support to cushion the effect of any incident that may happen in the course of their business. To the question, when it comes to assessing and looking at offshore risk, what is the first thing that insurance is particular about is who is the insured, right? They want to know who the insured is, what is their history, and because the history of the company tells a lot about the kind of maintenance culture that they have. And it is also important to know that because of the complex nature of the risk that relate to the deep offshore, a lot of times the risk cannot be fully placed in the Nigerian market. So there is need to be able to get additional capacity from international markets like the Lloyd's of London and other suitable markets that are A-rated in line with NICOM's requirements. Now you need to be able to understand who the insured is, their business practices, what kind of assets are they insuring. I mean, when we look at the deep water economy, we have different assets that are at play. We have the humans that are at play. We have the offshore assets themselves, the offshore oil platforms, the FPSOs, flow lines. We have the aquatic ecosystem also at play. And with all these assets that are at play, they are faced with various risks. If I look at, I mentioned humans initially. That was my first point. And then you look at the risk of piracy, which delves into, kidnap, right? You have to be able to have adequate insurance to be able to cover lives. If you look at the aquatic ecosystem, you are looking at the risk of pollution from discharges from vessels and all that. You have to be able to look at, protection and indemnity, right? Because certain conventions, when it comes to pollution, if I look at the International Convention on civil liability on oil pollution, the first port of who is going to be held liable is the insurance companies when there is oil spillage and oil pollution. So the CLC, which is the convention that requires vessel or tankers above 1,000 gross tonnage, should have a protection and indemnity cover to be able to cover the risk of pollution. You have marine vessels that are sailing, either shipping, tourism, or even performing works as offshore support vessels, platform vessels, even operating in the oil and gas sector. They need to have adequate insurances as well. So for insurance, you need to be able to determine, what kind of assets are you insuring. Another major factor is the valuation, what values are insured, placing on these values. I think this has become a major issue for a lot of underwriters, especially in the international market. They want to be able to, be sure that people are insuring their values at the right value. Because of the economic situation, right, a lot of people tend to underinsure their assets, and at the time of a claim, it's always a problem, because you have to establish, okay, is this the right value? What value are you going to be compensated for? If I look at vessels, the hull and machinery, age plays a very important role when it comes to insuring vessels. In the Nigerian market, most underwriters will say vessels above 20 years, they have to consider it critically, or, they may not be able to provide insurance for it. But on the role of what insurance brokers play when it comes to, insuring of assets, you have to be able to understand who your client is. You have to be able to sell the risk in a positive light to underwriters, because an insurance broker is the first port, is an intermediary between the insurance company and the insured. So how do you sell the risk in a positive light? Just to give an example, I think about 2 years ago, we had an incident where one of our clients, major IOC, they had an FPSO that was out of class, right? Being out of class was not because they didn't have, things were not in place. It was just a process for them to be able to carry out necessary survey and for them to implement the recommendations as a result of the survey. And I recall that the underwriters, because it was a classification is a major consideration when you are talking about, vessels and, similar offshore units like that. And underwriters said, well, because it is out of class and it's a condition in the policy, they said they were going to cancel cover because of that major condition, which is a warranty, and it's very critical in the insurance policy. But what did we do? We had to step in, and the way we sold the risk was, this client, their reputation, maintenance for standards, you understand that kind, and then we had to say, okay, what are the conditions that we are looking at? If it's A, B, C, D, then, this is the time frame they're required to be able to complete this. If any loss results as a result of these conditions that have been listed, then, it's something that, okay, we can look at it in another light. And at the end of the day, because of how we sold the risk in a positive light to the underwriters, they were able to, continue the risk, even though at a reduced limit of coverage, they were able to continue the risk, and the insured was happy. Safety is also a very important issue. One of the things the key area that we're looking at is safety, and it starts with the insured. Insurance is just a backup. Training, continuous training, adherence to safety regulations, they're very, very important, and this is what we look at and what underwriters also look at for assessing any risk. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Ms. Bolanle Anjorin. We've heard the sector is a complex one, the risks are high, and insurance should be valued at the right value to ensure adequate compensation when the need arises. Thank you very much. So we'll move straight to Ms. Ruth Chukwu-Kezirim, the chairperson midstream, representing Dr. Oladunni Owo, President, Women in Energy, Oil and Gas. So Ms. Chukwu-Kezirim, WEOG, that's the Women in Energy, Oil and Gas, has been actively promoting the role of women in the energy sector. So could you share with us WEOG's perspective on the participation of women in offshore and seabed mining? What are some of the opportunities and challenges you've observed for women in this high technical sector?
As the man here, I will be the one passing the microphone around.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ruth Chukwukezirim. I'm representing the National President of Women in Energy, Oil and Gas, Dr. Duni Owu. Our industry is a very unique one, and there are quite a lot of challenges in the sector, and then narrowing it down to women. As unique as it is, one of the challenges that women face is the issue of gender bias. We can't overemphasize that. And I will share a very personal story. So it's not few years, it's been a while. When I was just starting off my career in the midstream, I had just gotten an employment in a company, and I was to resume the following week. And then the head of operation came, said wanted to see the first lady that was employed in the department. And then I came from where I was working at that time to see him. And as I got into his office, he looked at me and said, "I can't work with you." Straight on. He said, "I can't work with you. No woman works in this department. This is core operation. You can't go on board the vessels. You can't clear no cargo." He just went on and on. I was stuck. And he asked for my appointment letter to be withdrawn. And my appointment letter was actually withdrawn. I mean, it was traumatic for me. I was just about taking a leap in my career, and I had that experience. And I actually didn't get that offer until after 4 months. For some reason, I don't know why he was sacked, and he was a German, and he left. Then the branch manager of where I was supposed to work resumed as the head of operation. He said, "I've seen this lady deliver a lot. I've seen her on board vessels. I need her to join the team." And that was how I eventually joined that team. So issue of bias is a very critical thing that women face in the industry. I've also had people say, "Why are you on board the vessel this time?" So I remember I was to get documents on board a vessel to ensure that the vessel sailed with the next available tide. And it was around 2 a.m. I was to drop the documents on board the vessel. And then someone met me at the jetty and say, in Nigerian palace, "Madam, you know, go home, go cook for your husband." Oh, yes. And I also jokingly told him, "Oga, make we cook the food, we go chop them." And so those are some of the few things, but I must also give it to the men that are very supportive. Please, if you're sitting beside the man, tell him thank you. Because we have quite a lot of them, but the bias issue is still a very critical one that we face every day. And one of the things WEOG is pushing so hard is to ensure that this bias is also being addressed as much as we can. I mean, it's been here and it doesn't look like it's going to go today, but WEOG is one of the gaps we are closing is to ensure that this bias is brought to the barest minimum. And then another issue that we face is also funding. I remember when we were in OTC in May, and then we moved to Miami for the round trip of the when the new rigs were set for launching, and then the money they were calling, some of our colleagues were like, "Where are we going to get that kind of money?" It looked like it wasn't what we could do. And I had someone say, "Please, this thing is not conversation for women. You people should wait." Because the money looked like no woman can afford it. I mean, so it was a combination of funding and still bias. Funding is also another issue with women, because I've had a few of my colleagues say wanting to get a vessel, but access to funding has been a major issue. And of course, we can't combat that as just women in the industry. We can achieve that with collaboration and advocacy from the government angle to ensure that there's funding made available for such capital-intensive ventures. And I'm glad that our Oga Local Content is here, and I heard him talk about funding. Please, let's clap for local content, because he has talked about money. Please clap so that they can give us money. Okay, so funding is another issue that we face, not just women, but for everyone venturing into every stream of the industry. It's a major issue. And of course, the environment itself, it's another thing. We have a very unique environment, and it's one thing, if our business is going to be sustainable, talking about environmental issues is one that we can't undermine the effect on getting us started as women. It's like when we were launching the host community in Women in Energy, Oil and Gas, we have a very active called Host Community Women. They are women in the host community areas where they think that all they can do is pull fire. But we have put them together in a sector where they are getting very actively involved in, now that we are in the decade of gas, and they are doing an amazing job. And those are some of the challenges and, of course, the things we are doing to ensure we get those challenges solved. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. A round of applause for our esteemed panelists, please. It's obvious that they are all playing critical roles in their various organizations to advance the offshore and seabed mining sector. So moving forward, I'm coming back to Mr. Silas Ajimijaye. So Nigerian content policies are designed to benefit local companies and the national economy. Okay, no, your second question, sir. So sorry. Okay, yes. Okay, so with increasing complexity of deep offshore operations, how is NCDMB ensuring that indigenous companies have the capacity and technical know-how to compete effectively with international firms, especially in the seabed mining sector?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. And before I answer that specifically, and to also buttress what Madam Ruth talked about, we actually have a product in the board targeted to women alone. So we ring-fence that product to support women entrepreneurs in the oil and gas sector, and of course the linkage sector, which is the marine sector. So, and a lot of women businesses have also taken advantage of that product. Probably if there's any business supported or facilitated or led or managed by women in the house, we can have discussions after this meeting. So it's part of what we are using. If you want to clap, you can clap. Thanks. Mm-hmm. So what are we doing? I already mentioned the partnership with NIMASA earlier. We are sponsoring maritime industry training and certification programs to guarantee that Nigerian professionals are competitive on a worldwide scale. This is a part of our capacity building initiatives. And we even ensure that the IOCs and the NOCs in the sector, they work with us. If you say, for instance, I don't want to begin to mention specific names of these companies. If you have business in the deep offshore. We also ensure that the capacity development initiatives you carry out is to develop Nigerians and Nigerian businesses in that sector. That we have been doing for a long time now. We also work with businesses in the marine sector to provide sea time training for Nigerians on board vessels, both locally and internationally. Also, we actually support training of Nigerians in that sector to the highest level in the industry to ensure that they can stand and discuss and do business with their international partners and colleagues around the world. We have this product that we have a committee that to harmonize standards for marine vessel categorization in the country, for instance, to ensure that what we are doing locally is what obtains all over the world. And that is working as we speak. I already mentioned the aspect of providing sea time training for Nigerian cadets. We also have this Nigerian Content Marine Vessel Certificate. Nigerian Content Marine Vessel Certificate speaks to the level of Nigerian content in marine vessel arrangement, marine ownership, marine asset ownership arrangement. So you see that when people bring vessels into the country, with our categorization system, you realize that in order to do business in the Nigeria, in the maritime space, especially as it affects oil and gas in our law, you know you have to train Nigerians. You know you have to have Nigerian partners. So that has really helped a lot. If you go to One, you can talk to the business people there that services the deep offshore sector. They will be able to tell you even more about how we have supported them. That if you look at that, I worked in that sector in the past, maybe more than 20-something years now. In the early days of my career, when you go off, just a few of us, you know, you have people from all over the world. But now, when we do our inspections, you see that things have really changed. You see a lot of Nigerians even holding leadership role, especially even in safety. In any part of even you have offshore installation managers and so on, who are Nigerians right now. So I think I'll pause for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think NCDMB deserves a round of applause again and again. So much is happening for local content with NCDMB. And a lot of women, I can assure you, a lot of women are waiting to speak with you after this session. Okay, so Ms. Anjorin, back to insurance of our complex industry, how does marine insurance contribute to enhancing safety protocols in offshore operations?
Thank you. For marine insurance, it's we're looking at, first of all, the hulls that are used, whether it is for support of offshore support operations, whether it's for shipping or tourism, because again, the nature of marine business, it is internationally in nature. And the way it contributes, I mean, insurance contributes to the safety in marine insurance. First of all, the insurance of the assets, right? It's important that people insure the hulls that they're using. And you look at hull and machinery insurance to be able to provide protection to the vessel owners. The second part that as it relates also to marine, again, is we're looking at the protection and indemnity, which is also very key. Usually for protection and indemnity, there are certain requirements based on international conventions that vessel owners must have a protection and indemnity insurance, right? And essentially, what the protection and indemnity insurance will do is what it will cover. We are looking at it covers the crew on the vessels. It covers passengers, right? If there's illness or death or any, in relation to that. And when it comes to protection and indemnity, a recent incident that I will cite, that will come to mind, was the Baltimore incident whereby, the shipping vessel ran across the Baltimore Bridge in Maryland. And that incident, I think, captures the whole essence of protection and indemnity insurance because there were loss of lives. And under that, you would have the P&I, cover the incidents that have to do with loss of lives. You will have the incident of, the collision with the bridge, which is a structure in the ocean, right? The P&I would also pay for that as well. You have the incident of, the vessel itself. Now, the hull and machinery of the shipping agency would cater for that. Unfortunately, there were no incidents of or any report on spillage or pollution, right? Which, if it had occurred, the protection and indemnity will take care of that as well. But just to drive the importance of, the P&I or essentially insurance within the marine sector, is that from reports, the Baltimore incident is estimated to cost, I think, in excess of $2 billion, the loss. And I don't think any business, without the right insurance can be able to pay this, because you have a lot of legal issues that are going to come up as a result of this incident. And even the likelihood of the state of Maryland to sue the shipping agency, because it did result in, loss of use. It was a major port for them, right? And I don't think no company can, facing such a major incident like this, can say they are paying $2 billion out of their pocket, right? And just to drive further the importance of insurance again, in 2010, the Deepwater Horizon incident, the Macondo incident, I think today BP is still feeling the impact of what was paid out as a result of that incident, even though some was covered by insurance, but they did have to pay a significant amount. So to drive home the importance of insurance, I think we can all agree that it is important, it contributes, and experiences from this kind of incidents help insurance companies to be able to provide safety measures, right? Because they know, what is the cause of this from their investigation. It helps them deliver that message to, either through their policy or to insureds generally as a learning point, and, to be proactive, in terms of safety, essentially. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Anjorin. So we can say that insurance and safety goes hand in hand in the maritime industry. So moving on to Ms. Ruth Chukwukezirim, Women in Energy. Could you share with us some of the specific initiatives that WIOG is currently working on to increase female participation in offshore and seabed mining? What are the key skills or competencies that women need to thrive in this sector?
Thank you very much. A few of the things that we have done and we are doing is visibility for women in the industry. We realized that women were working in silos, and then we created Women in Industry platform. Is both a physical and online platform. It was launched in OTC 2024, and the core objective of that platform is to bring women in the industry together, women-owned, women-led, women-managed, women-involved businesses across the streams of the industry for visibility. I mean, they say if you don't say this is where you are, people will not know you are there. So the essence is to ensure that women are being visible, and we advocate people to come shop from the pavilion. So different women are bringing on different services in the industry. And we also have women that have already gone ahead in the industry in both the across board, upstream, midstream, and downstream, doing amazingly well. But there was no connect. So the pavilion was to ensure that women have a platform where we can connect, and then there's some form of exchange, there's a form of handshake in knowledge. So women that are already ahead of the other women can impact the knowledge in form of mentorship, role modeling, to see what they have done. And when the platform was launched in OTC, I think the Minister of Petroleum for Oil was there. I'm not very sure right now. A few House members, the House Committee on Maritime was also there, and a lot of other ones. We had a large turnout of women coming to showcase their businesses. It's been said that women participation in the industry is about 20%, and then we are looking for the 20%. The 20% is actually not seen. If we're up to 20%, I think that's a large number considering where we are coming from. But we're looking for the 20% and we didn't see them. So we said, okay, it was very important that we have a platform where the women are together and we can identify what each woman is doing, and then that platform was launched. So those are some of the key initiatives women are doing. And then, like I had mentioned earlier, we have the host community women. The host community women is a platform we created for the various women in the oil and gas communities that are not visible but that can do so much. Nigeria is in the decade of gas, and we know that it's very important that women are actively involved in this decade. So when we launched that, we realized that these women were also interested in running these CNG businesses, but knowledge was a major issue. So when we had that launch and we started putting them together, we already have 2 women doing something in Bayelsa, and other ones are still coming on. Some are also in the pipeline, ensuring that women are actively involved in the industry. And then the Minister for Petroleum Gas, Right Honorable Ekwerikwe, has just been moved to the different geopolitical zones to create awareness on the decade of gas and encouraging women on usage of gas for sustainability. And WEOG has been actively in partnership with the ministry in championing that. We were together with the minister in Nasarawa, and then 2 weeks ago he was in Lagos, so we're there. That same 2 weeks he was in Uyo. Those are some of the amazing things women are doing. And from our own sides, we also have a lot of trainings going on among our members to ensure that women are actively involved. And then we realized that in the offshore, that women are not fully involved in the ship chandling businesses. It's just very few, like I said, less than 20%. And there's an advocacy going on to ensure that women are involved, and we are aware that nobody is coming to save us. We are very aware. So we are pushing our own cause with collaboration from the government, and I must say that local content has opened their door for us. I think it was earlier in the year, Ms. Doing, that we had leadership training. It was fully funded by NCDMB and in Lagos Business School. Please, can we clap for them? Women clap so that when we go again, they will open for us. All right, so those are some of the things we are doing to ensure women are fully involved in the offshore business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ruth. Yes, women are coming, and they are women are getting skilled. NCDMB is there for them, and more collaboration is necessary to get women involved, mainstreamed into the sector. Before we go into their final words, I would like to announce that you get your questions ready. If you have any question you would like to ask any of our panelists, you can jot them down so that when we get to Q&A, you will be able to ask those questions, and they are all ready for you, I'm sure. Also, thank you all for your detailed and insightful responses. It's been enlightening. We appreciate all that you have said. We've learned so much. And now we are approaching the conclusion of this panel. I want to give each and every one of you the opportunity to share any concluding remarks or key takeaway you believe are crucial for the audience to understand about the future of offshore and seabed mining, and any final advice or recommendations you have for stakeholders in the industry. I'll start. Our he for she, Mr. Silas. A round of applause for him once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Toyin Yusuf. It's been very exciting sitting here. I feel so comfortable, and it's also true that in my house, I think fortunately we have more beautiful ladies than men. So I'm always very comfortable in that space. Now, the future of the sector, what we are doing, we have a 10-year roadmap that speaks to the future of the deep offshore business in Nigeria. And you know that from what my sister from the insurance sector has said now, you can't do this kind of business without safety. And on the board of NCDMB, for instance, we have the Commissioner of Insurance sitting on that board to ensure that Nigerian insurance sector is fully involved in the business. And we also ensure that even international players, they have to work with their Nigerian counterparts to ensure safety in our business. You know, we are struggling, as it were. If you now add the challenges of safety to it, you can imagine how the industry, the perception in the international space. So what are we doing? Massive capacity building with Nigerian safety providers. We have what is called Octane, for instance, that Nigeria, that the board is supporting to enhance the future of training in safety and other aspects of the business that has to ensure sustainability in that sector. We have Pattern there also, which we are supporting actively. Anyone in the room that is involved with services in that sector, we also attest to this to ensure that we are able to do business sustainably in that sector. I already mentioned the funding. We have $40 million separated for women alone, apart from just for women. So, you know, they are the mother of the society. If you ensure that their business is sustained, that means that business, that particular business also is going to be sustained. So we still have roughly about $500 million worth of facilities with Bank of Industry, with Nexim, to ensure that the future is secured. We are also facilitating Africa local content development, because when you develop this capacity, we've trained people even in Ghana and some other. So when you facilitate Africa local content development, you ensure that our excess capacity can be exported, and they also, we have a lot of Nigerians business in the maritime sector now that is working all across Africa, where you have explorations. You even have Nigerians leading the industry. In the past, it used to be South Africa, but you have a lot of, now I'm talking about the Africa aspect now. You have a lot of Nigerians, and Nigerian business is working in that sector now. So, and we have in-house framework that we have put in place, which we are deploying to train, to help, and so on. And this particular program that we are sitting here, of course, we are one of the sponsors of this event to ensure sustainability, of the industry. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I would just like to add that, I know that the National Insurance Commission is working closely with the Nigerian Content Monitoring Board, and I think about 2 years ago, there was a guideline that was also signed by both commissions just to further strengthen, the local capacity in the Nigerian market. And I think the Nigerian insurance sector, we are gradually beginning to, retain more risk, in line with the local content requirement. But just to note that it would be good that we see more collaboration between the insurance industry and the other maritime agencies, right? Because I think all this together would help, foster and also build in terms of human capacity and even knowledge. So I would, for example, like to see that, we have joint training sessions, right? Not for clients within the sector and, also between both the insurance and the other maritime agencies, because I think that this will provide an avenue to be able to share lessons and, sharing of data, claims or operational data that would provide insights into operation and what, both parties can learn and how they can, in terms of safety, and how they can improve on, various operational safeties that may come up in the industry. And I know another part, again, that is also coming up now is we're all aware of the divestments from major oil and gas companies, especially the major E&Ps from the onshore sector, right? A lot of them are actually going more into the offshore, like Mr. Silas said. And again, these are complex risks that need to be well evaluated. So in terms of human capacity, all agencies have to come together to be able to see how we can build capacity to be able to take on this risk more. And I think the last part, in terms of, when incidents occur, even within the oil and gas space, it will be good to have insurance representatives, as part of it, because this also provides a learning point. I talked earlier about using the example of the Macondo incident in the Gulf of Mexico. It was a major learning point that I think we have read about and also learned from various trainings on, what happened and how it can be prevented. And I think things are also happening within our own waters in Nigeria that, other agencies, when they share those key experiences, because a lot of companies may not want to outrightly say that this is what happened. And then, insurance companies, when these losses occur, insurance companies pay the claims, but it would be good to have a deeper understanding of what has happened and how it can be prevented in future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to say that women naturally have the gifts of perspective. When a woman is in a project along with the male counterparts, there's always a perspective that she brings that might be very different from what the man will bring. And we encourage more women participation and collaboration. We know that women are not the only ones that are doing that we are advocating for. We are advocating for collaboration, teamwork. It is what makes the team to move faster. So if women are not involved, it looks more like leaving money on the table. And we are asking, let's not leave more money on the table. Let's encourage more women participation in the various streams of the sector. And also, women come with different kind of analytical skills. So those are the kind of things we get to miss when you don't find women on projects, especially on vessels. We have a lot of women in the industry that are also getting trained. They have the competency and the skills, but that same bias is still there. It's still holding us somewhere. And we think that, can a woman really do it? I remember seeing a woman captain in Antwerp. It was amazing. And I kept talking with her. She said, oh, well, they give us a lot of opportunities here. I want us to also say that they give us a lot of opportunities here. Women come with different perspectives, like I said. Please, let's make the environment more conducive. And again, I'd like to touch something very, a bit particular. Organizations should encourage women convenience to have things that close up the period gap. We don't talk about this. It looks like it's too personal, but it's also not very... Of course, when you see a woman, you know that she sees her period. But sometimes you see a woman come, her period happens, probably there's a change. She didn't know it's going to come at this time, and she's running all over the place. Organizations do not make provisions for this in the central places. Please, we advocate that such places, such things should be made available for women in the organizations and also in the offshore. When women bid for this job, it's not because they can't deliver, but the opportunities are not there. It's still part of that bias to say a woman cannot do ship chandling in the offshore. Just do meet, let her do when the vessel come alongside. Well, you might say, how do I know this? Because again, I've been a victim. I remember one of the times we needed to go clear a vessel midstream. And then they say, oh, they're going with the chopper and then the basket. And we were all getting ready. And by the time we were ready, they said, there would really no need for you to go. You're a woman. We don't want... And truly, I didn't go. That was how I missed the opportunity of going midstream to do vessel clearing. Then the vessels were all on temporary importation. And the men went because they feel, oh, she's a woman. She can't do it. I like to encourage every one of us, including women, because we've started accepting the status quo. It's time for us to question the status quo and remove that mindset that have been, oh, let the men go. It's the men that can handle it. When the opportunities come, let's give ourselves the freedom of putting in our best to go try out when these opportunities come. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my esteemed panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll agree with me that it's been an engaging discussion. And it's now time to hear from you, the audience. And we'll do that by taking your questions. And we'll take all of the questions that you may have at the same time so that we can attend to them adequately.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, for a very successful session. My name is Bodrin Adewale. I'm from the Maritime Arbitrators Association of Nigeria. My question is for Silas. We thank you so much, NCA DMB, for the great things that you are doing, especially in your quest to develop local content. The question is this. Of course, in developing local content, the bargaining power of the local business partners cannot be compared to their business partners in the West, international oil companies and so on. Having created this opportunity, how do you protect the local content? How do you protect those companies that you have given that opportunity? Because eventually, we know that a lot of disputes arise. Eventually, the local content partners get the short end of the stick, and there's a dispute as a result. How do you protect them? Having gone this far, the question is, how do you protect them? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adewale. Any more questions from the audience, please?
Good morning, everyone.
My name is Belkis. Good job from the moderator and the panelists. My question goes to the insurance experts. Okay, my question is this. How do you bridge the barrier for insurance for foreign assets? I'll give another dimension to that. Take, for example, you got a vessel outside the country. Maritime is a global trade, and where I got the vessel from, they're insisting I take an insurance from there, whereas I have an insurance company in Nigeria. The last time that happened, I think there were issues that had to go to NICOM, that's the National Insurance Commission, and they said we'll have to join a club or something like that. I'm sure you're aware of what I'm saying. So how do you bridge that barrier? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bilkis. Any more questions from our audience?
All right, thank you, panel. My name is Daniel. My question goes to the insurance arm. I just noticed you guys didn't talk about ship arrest. You've noticed in our space, we have our forces. Once there's a claim or something going on in the oil and gas stream, you have a ship being arrested and burnt, right? And if you look at it from the other end, it looks like a huge loss. Like, how do insurance companies help both local ship owners mitigate this risk when it comes to ship arrest? Thank you.
Your name again, sir?
Daniel.
Daniel, thank you. Any more questions? Okay, so I think we can proceed. So we'll start from Mr. Silas again, responding to Mr. Boduri Adewale on the bargaining power of our local businesses. Then, on the insurance part, I hope you got that for Ms. Bilkis and Mr. Daniel. And I will be asking the last question for the women. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, and thanks to the man who asked that question. What's the name again, sir? Boduri. Okay. Wow. So we also got that figured out, that we have a process in the board that mandated the oil and gas industry to give first consideration during tenders to Nigerians who have acquired assets, including Nigerians who build vessels in Nigerian shipyards. So that is key, and it is a law in this country to give first consideration. So that is a very powerful protection mechanism for Nigerians. And then the other aspect is that I mentioned that it's also in the law, section 105, to work with NIMASA to ensure local content development in that sector. So these are in the law. Then you now have the partnerships. Mind you, you have, for the oil and gas aspect now, you have the NUPRC in the space, and for the products, for what comes out of the deep offshore activities, like in our industry now, you now have the NMDPRA, where you talk about shipping vessels and so on. And of course, you have NIMASA and ourselves. So I'm also asking here, good that we have a very good interaction among these agencies and other even clubs and associations in the sector. We can only plead for collaboration. And I say here that sometimes you have Nigerian players in some of these international companies that sometimes seems to sabotage these efforts. I can only plead with someone like you, Mr. Bodwin, and your colleagues who are in high positions in even this international, or who are agents or counsel to these companies, to give your Nigerian counterpart, some sort of soft landing in these arrangements. So this will be my contribution for now.
All right, thank you, Bilkis. To answer your question in terms of how do you bridge the gap in terms of cover, essentially, and I think your question was more because you mentioned the P&I club. Yes, so it has to do with P&I insurance, essentially. And the insurance that you have, because you talked about having an insurance in place, you have an hull and machinery insurance, right? Now, the hull and machinery insurance that you have has some element of P&I, protection and indemnity insurance, well, P&I in it, because that section refers to, under the H&M, hull and machinery insurance, your standard hull policy is what is called the 3/4 collusion. That's an element of P&I. But what maybe the sellers of the vessel are requesting you to have is to have what, for lack of a better word, a more robust P&I policy, which the Nigerian market, no insurance company in the Nigerian market provides that. And the reason why they don't provide it is because the P&I policy is tailored to a lot of international conventions, because this is an international business. So when you do have a P&I policy that is issued by the club, they can offer you larger limits. What the Nigerian market, based on the limited scope of P&I that the Nigerian insurance companies can offer, is limited to the value of the vessel, which in most instances, under the international requirements, it is not sufficient. So again, you're looking at issues of certain documents that need to be issued in compliance with various conventions, right? The Nigerian market cannot issue that because they can't issue blue cards, for example. You have the blue card that will be issued for the Nairobi Convention for removal of wreckage, right? The Nigerian insurance companies can't issue that. You have the Civil Liability Convention for oil pollution, right? They can't issue that. And the kind of limits that the clubs can provide, I mean, some can run into 100 million and, beyond that. And, also under the hull and machinery, I talked about the 3/4 collusion. The P&I can either offer you for 4th collusion, which is a 100% collusion liability, or you can opt to have a 1/4 collusion, which standard the P&I would offer you. So the reason why you have that issue is because of the lack of capacity, so to speak. Well, not lack of capacity, but because of the nature of the P&I policy, which is more tailored towards the international requirements and conventions. That's why. To the question of Daniel, you talked about ship arrest. And I just want to be clear, because when we talk about ship arrest, is it as a result of piracy, or what kind of incidents have led to the ship arrest? Just to provide more context, please.
Predominantly legal claims.
What?
Legal claims.
Okay, legal claims, okay.
Claims, yeah, just legal claims. Jurisdictions and legal claims, that's all.
Okay, all right, okay.
All right.
Now, in that context, there's a legal liability in this case, and the ship has been detained because of, let's say, pollution or any other liabilities to third parties. Now, I would, refer to the contract itself, which is the insurance contract. certain things are not covered, right? So if the vessel is detained for breach of regulatory or government authorities and all that, insurance will not kick in that, because that is, it is an act that is against the law. But if, for example, there is a pollution and it involves third-party liabilities, now that detainment, if the insured has what you call loss of use, right, the insurance company can pay for it. But ordinarily, because it's been detained, right, insurance companies will not pay for it if there is no cover in the policy that can address that need. So essentially, because it's a contract, and it spells out from inception, what am I covering, and what you are also paying for. In the event of a loss, the loss or whatever insurance companies are going to pay for will be interpreted in line with the terms and conditions of the policy and what cover the insured has bought. So if loss of use is there, then of course there's a ground for insurance companies to pay for that, because the vessel has not been in use because of that incident, which has resulted in detainment of that ship.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Silas and Mrs. Anjorin. And my final question for Mrs. Ruth Chukwuzirim is, how can women become members of WEOG? How can people join the Women in Energy, Oil and Gas?
Thank you very much. Okay, every woman in the industry, either you're a woman-led, woman-owned, or you're just involved, or an employer across board in the industry value chain, you're a service provider, you're highly welcome. You go to our website. You can also come to our booth and become one of our members. It's very easy. We just want all of us to collaborate together and be visible in the industry. We want us to together join hands and make our voices to be heard and take our place and ensure that we close the gender gap, the poverty gap, by supporting more women businesses. So you can just come to our booth behind the hall or just at the back of the hall, and we'll give you the form to fill. And voila, you're our member. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's obvious that we all have gained so much from our panelists today. They've shared their wealth of experience, and we're grateful for that. So I think you should please join me in giving them a well-deserved round of applause.
Thank you,
Don't
thank
stop.
you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You can put more. As you can see, Ambassador Ukonga, she's with us here. Madam, please come up to the platform and join the group photograph. Sorry.
Sorry.
Education and law. In this session, we shall be discussing on the topic, legal instruments for enforcing maritime security in the Gulf of Guinea. And we shall also be discussing on building human capacity to ensure safety of the blue economy. It's a simultaneous panel discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring on this platform the moderator of this session. It's no other person than Lola Ikwoagu. I'm sorry, Lola Ikwoagu. Legal partner. Is a legal practitioner. Put your hands together as she walks to the platform. You're welcome, ma'am. Lola Ikuagu. Thank you. On the panelists, I want to bring to you a very high and a distinguished personality. It's no other person than Justice John Suhu, Chief Judge of the Federal High Court of Nigeria, the rule of law of Federal High Court of Nigeria, which shall be represented by a very high and a distinguished personality. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Justice Dikpo Olu as he steps to the panel. You can do more. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Next on the list of our panelists, we shall be bringing sorry for my pronunciation, Bodiri Adewole, the President, Maritime Arbitrators Association of Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together as we walk to the panel. You're welcome, sir. On the panelists, we want to bring up Dr. Kevin Okonna from Maritime Academy, Oro, representing Commodore Emmanuel Daju Efodua, Director, Maritime Academy, Nigeria, Oro, for maritime industry in Nigeria. Thank you very much. As I hand over to the moderator to take over from here.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and my esteemed panelists. A very good morning to you too. Good morning, my lord. I always say it, that I'm always excited when I get to direct a judge. Because normally I'm at the receiving end saying my lord, but now I get to say speak, and please you may not speak. So it's very exciting to be here today, and I have the honor of welcoming the Honorable Justice Dikpo Olu, Mr. Bodunri Adewole, and Dr. Kevin Okonna to this panel. Thank you very much. As you can see, if you have the program with you, it is actually a combined session. So we are going to be discussing two things together, and I guess each person will speak in his own area of specialization. We're going to talk about combating maritime insecurity in the Gulf of Guinea, and we're also going to talk about maritime education for capacity in the blue economy. So we all know that Nigeria is located around in the Gulf of Guinea, which is a very important gateway even to the maritime resources of West Africa. The Gulf of Guinea has been described as almost, for several years, it has been a den, as it were, of unlawful maritime activities against vessels operating in that area. The offense of piracy was going on unabated, and it was said to cost the region about $19 billion per annum. $1.6 billion per annum, a very, very huge and colossal sum. And I'm happy to report that Nigeria is the first country in the region to enact or to take any steps to fight piracy by the enactment in 2019 of the Act, Suppression of Piracy and Other Maritime Offenses Act 2019, called SPOMO for short, which was enacted with a view to combating the nefarious acts of this activity, of pirates in that area. Up till now, I do not think any other country in the region has enacted any such legislation. So I think Nigeria deserves a round of applause for that. We also have the United Nations Convention for the Suppression of Unlawful Acts against maritime navigation. And that was passed earlier, of course, and there have been protocols to it. So we're going to interrogate or discuss here what the role of the Federal High Court is in enhancing maritime security as regards the Gulf of Guinea. The Gulf of Guinea is called GOG. It is a very rich Gulf. It is a very rich area. And of course, we all know what the maritime economy, the blue economy comprises. I think we'll start with that before we go on to education. So, my lord, you are in the Federal High Court. The SPOMO Act vests exclusive jurisdiction in the Federal High Court for the trial of any offender charged with an offense against the maritime safety in the Gulf of Guinea. Can you expatiate on what the role of the Federal High Court is in that regard?
Thank you, moderator. Good morning to the wonderful audience and my fellow speakers here. The role of the Federal High Court with regards to the SPOMO Act essentially is interpretation of the law, enforcement of the law. The SPOMO Act in Section 5 gives exclusive jurisdiction to the Federal High Court to try offenses under the Act. And the Act covers a wide range of offenses as specified in the Act. So the role of the Federal High Court is essentially to exercise the jurisdiction that has been conferred on it with regards to the SPOMO Act. There are other laws with regards to the maritime industry. There is NIMASA Act, there is a Shippers Council Act, there is the Cabotage Act. And all these acts, they confer exclusive jurisdiction on the Federal High Court, in addition to the ground norm, which is the Constitution, which confers exclusive jurisdiction on the Federal High Court with regards to maritime issues. So the Federal High Court, in conjunction with counsel, are to, as far and as much as possible, ensure that offenses with regards to maritime are tried timeously. As has been said earlier on, the maritime industry is a very time-sensitive industry. So it's imperative on counsel and judges in the Federal High Court to do everything within their powers to ensure that offenses are tried timeously and speedily. I also should say very subtly that as far and as much as possible, counsel should avoid technicalities which often tend to inordinately delay matters. So that is essentially the role of the Federal High Court. I know that the Federal High Court also has an ADR arm. And I believe that the Federal High Court and the ADR arm of the Federal High Court can also contribute to ensuring that not just the fact that the laws, not just that offenses are tried speedily, but if there is room for ADR, that should also be encouraged. ADR generally covers arbitration, conciliation, and mediation. Perhaps I should just say that arbitration is counsel-driven, while mediation and conciliation, especially when it is dealt with by people who have been trained by ICMC, is party-driven. I'm careful to say that the mediation and conciliation that is party-driven takes less time. The parties come together, they talk. If they cannot agree, then they go back either to arbitration or to court. All these are arms of alternative dispute resolution, which the Federal High Court also encourages between parties with regards to the SPOMO Act, because it doesn't just deal with piracy, it also deals with maritime offenses. So again, at the risk of repetition, the Federal High Court is to exercise the jurisdiction conferred on it judicially and judiciously and timeously. But that cannot be done without the cooperation and collaboration of counsel. I think it is also essential to say that continuing education for judges who handle maritime related issues will also encourage speedy dispensation of justice, particularly under the SPOMO Act, which, at least as it is now, covers the field with regards to piracy and maritime offenses.
Thank you very much, my Lord. I took one or two things from that. One is the warning to counsel that they should not delay proceedings unduly and that they should shy away from, or they should avoid technicalities. That is, that's what many lawyers do. We rely on technicalities at times to defeat the ends of justice, which we should not do. So thank you, my Lord, for bringing that up. And then secondly, the fact that counsel and the court are enjoined to speedily dispose of all matters under the SPOMO Act. I recall the very first case that was decided by Honorable Justice Faji. I think the case commenced, the offenders were arrested in May 2020. The offense took place in May 2020, and they were arraigned in July 2020. And by July 2021, they had already been convicted and sent to the prison. So that shows that speed is very important, and that also helps to send the message to those who are contemplating a life of crime in the Gulf of Guinea, that this is no longer business as usual. Indeed, the IMO Convention on the suppression of unlawful maritime acts expressed the hope and the view that by the end of 2023, maritime piracy and similar acts in the Gulf of Guinea would have been reduced by 80%. I'm yet to see their report as to whether that has been achieved, but I know, and we have also seen, that maritime crimes in the area have reduced significantly. I don't know if Mr. Adewole would like to weigh in on this issue and to see exactly the importance of the SPOMO Act, because that is actually what we have in Nigeria, the SPOMO Act for the suppression of maritime offenses. And my Lord made an interesting observation. He mentioned ADR in the determination of offenses, which are crimes. I don't know what Mr. Adewole will have to say about that as well. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Just briefly, I'm the president of the Maritime Arbitrators Association of Nigeria. It's a company limited by guarantee, and its members have come together to provide means of alternative dispute resolution for those who are one way or the other involved in contracts which have come to an end for one reason or the other, sometimes old contracts, and you'll be surprised, even sometimes young contracts. So it is in that capacity that I am here. And of course, the Maritime Arbitrators Association of Nigeria is not limited to lawyers alone. It's not the preserve of lawyers, because in the maritime industry you have, of course, ship chandlers, you have freight forwarders, all manner of captains of industry, seafarers. So those are our members. What I would like to add to what my Lord has said is that, yes, all those conventions, United Nations conventions, which we have talked about, only become enforceable when the signatory states have adopted them in their own laws. So this POMO Act is a combination of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, as well as the Suppression of Unlawful Acts Convention. So both of them have been combined to have the effect that this POMO has. If this POMO Act does not have that effect, then no criminals, or well, at least no offense, no people, no persons can be convicted under that act. So I just wanted to underline that. Now, I don't want to go over what my Lord has said, but one thing I know for sure, if piracy is reduced in the maritime sector, in the Gulf of Guinea, which of course includes the Niger Delta, where a lot of oil exploration takes place. What this means is that there will be an increase in trade, a lot of increase in trade, because ships will not be, attacked, and seafarers and so on will have safety of lives at sea. But in our own, when we look at it, that means there will be increased trade. When there is increased trade, definitely there will be disputes. So where do you take these disputes to? Because now we've moved from the realm of the criminal to the civil. And so that's why we are here, to ensure that we provide means of alternative dispute resolution. As to the assertion that my Lord made concerning ADR and criminal offenses, honestly, it's one of the exceptions to, because, we cannot oust the jurisdiction of the courts. So we deal mainly with civil claims. If there's a claim between parties, there's a dispute and it involves damages or any such thing, that's where we come in. And I don't know, maybe it's my Lord was referring to plea bargaining, but maybe at some point he may wish to elaborate on this. But our own is this: assuming there's a deterrent in this Gulf of Guinea and there's an increased trade because people and resources can move freely, there will be increased trade. When there is increased trade, inevitably there will be disputes, not only on old contracts, but on new contracts. We've seen it even before the contract takes off. There will be things that maybe in respect of a barge or a bunker or something. And that's where we come in. And so that's what I have to add to it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adewale. I don't know if you have anything to say on this. You are in the realm of naval education. You want to weigh in on it? And do you think, I would ask you this before we come back to my Lord, maybe you want to think whether there should be any additional legal instrument, even for enhancing maritime safety, particularly in the Gulf of Guinea. That's to Dr. Okona.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Please, let me first of all say that I'm here to represent the Rector of Maritime Academy of Nigeria, and to also say formally good morning to the distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I did not really prepare to be part of the legal discussion, but what is being discussed comes into the realm of our training, so we can still say something. I took note that you mentioned the perceived reduction in maritime crimes within our space since the SPOMO Act was established. That's actually true, because if you go to this website that publishes statistics on maritime crimes, since the establishment of the SPOMO Act in Nigeria, you would notice that the rate of incidents has actually gone down. we are very active in training people to be able to implement international law with respect to maritime security. But you know, the law side is not really our specialty, even though it's part of our curriculum. So I will be very brief in what I say in that aspect. But the academy is actively involved in training people to be able to cope with the threats to maritime security. And in that sense, you know, apart from the SPOMO Act, which seeks to particularly prosecute those who have committed the offense, there is another regime, the regime of the ISPS code, which is actually to train the operators of the industry on how to be able to cope with these threats. And this is the sphere that we are very active. All the training program, all the trainings that are required for seafarers with respect to the International Ship and Port Facility Security Code, the Academy is offering accredited programs in this respect. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Okona. I just couldn't resist the opportunity to advertise your academy. We are still going to get there when we talk about maritime education in the blue economy. And I just had to ask you a question too, so that you will not feel left out in this discourse. So now there's just one more thing. The sentences that were passed on those the convicts, they were sentenced to 48 years in prison. Of course, the offenses were to run, the sentences were to run concurrently, so they're not going to spend 48 years, actually. My Lord, do you think that the effect that the quick and decisive punishment meted out to those convicts was one of the reasons why there has been a reduction in maritime crime? And then secondly, I want to ask you, my Lord, if you think there's the need for any additional legislative instrument, even to support the SPOMO, or whether the SPOMO is enough in and of itself. I note that the SPOMO confers wide jurisdiction on the court. The court is able to exercise jurisdiction even where the vessel was offshore, so long as it has a connection to Nigeria. So bearing in mind all this, do you think there's any need for any additional legislation, or that will be sufficient?
I am aware that the laws, including the SPOMO Act, is currently undergoing some review at the National Assembly. It's a work in progress. It's not yet uhuru with regards to all that it should take care of, but it's a very good step in the right direction, with a conviction which, because of the turnaround time from arraignment to conviction, all those who participate in piracy and other maritime offenses will know that the days and times have passed when they will get away with it. Before the advent of the SPOMO Act, as has been said severally, the rate of piracy and maritime offenses was high. But with the SPOMO Act now, it has reduced. And I believe that part of what has contributed to the reduction is the sentence. The law confers wide jurisdiction on the Federal High Court. So I do not think there is need for additional legislation. What I think the National Assembly needs to do is to regularly update and review the SPOMO Act and even other relevant laws with the participation of experts in the field. It's not something that they can just do on their own. They have to get contributions from experts both within and outside. There are several conventions that also touch and concern on this issue of piracy and maritime offenses. Like the arbitrator said, the two main conventions have been combined into the SPOMO Act. So that act, there must be a continuous review of it, because even the maritime industry is a volatile one. Things can keep happening on the international scene. Internationally, they are usually on top of their game. So we cannot sit back and be left behind. AI, for instance, has been around for quite some time before it's becoming something we are now being very aware of. Whereas in other climes, they had been involved in AI for quite some time. So there needs to be a constant update of that SPOMO Act to ensure that, it covers the field. They cannot keep having multiplicity of laws with regards to the same subject matter. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, my lord. And then just to round up, Mr. Adewole, we have our time is limited, so I'm going to try and manage it too. And I'm going to invite you to also contribute to the next topic. Just to round up now, we noticed that the SPOMO Act was passed only by Nigeria. Of course, there are other countries in the Gulf of Guinea. There are other countries whose territories abut the Gulf of Guinea. There are landlocked countries as well who also benefit or are harmed as a result of activities in the Gulf of Guinea. Would you encourage or advise that these other countries go ahead to also pass similar legislation? And then just round up.
Yes, thank you very much. Before I answer that question, I wanted to take my theme from take this part of the question from the theme for this conference, which is navigating the future of Africa's marine and blue economy. Safety first. So that more or less answers the question, because we're not talking about Nigeria's economy, we are talking about Africa's marine and blue economy. But the good thing about it, maybe what I would call the silver lining, is that I believe that under the SPOMO Act, other members in the Gulf of Guinea can, bring the suspects into the Federal High Court or into our courts to be convicted. But that should just be an interim measure. They themselves should borrow a leaf from what Nigeria has done, in order so that they don't have to travel far. If it's near where if they are in that Gulf, then they just go to the nearest country where the UNCLOS and SUA have already been adopted as their own law and calling it whatever name they wish to. So thank you very much for that. I think the answer is in navigating the future of Africa's marine and blue economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adewole. I will now come to you, and then now we are moving into the realm of education. You want to say something? Okay.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Just to put it in context, the last question you asked, whether other African countries are benefiting from our promulgation of the SPOMO Act or it's hurting them. On the International Maritime Bureau and International Chamber of Commerce site, where statistics on piracy and armed robbery incidents are published. Since the promulgation of the SPOMO Act in Nigeria, if you check the statistics, whether it's a coincidence, it's a good coincidence. If it is not, whatever it is, the reported incidents in Nigeria has actually gone really down, but it has moved into Ghana. And I just needed to highlight that. That's evident and is on the website. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Okoma, for that piece of information. So that apparently makes it imperative that the other countries in the Gulf of Guinea should also go ahead to pass their own legislation. And now we come on to education, because the blue economy cannot run itself. It needs specialized, it needs trained, it needs educated personnel to carry out this task. So I know that in Nigeria, for instance, we have the Maritime Academy of Oron. Sorry, I'm not localizing you. The Maritime Academy of Nigeria situates in Oron. And then we also have other institutions. If you go to the website of the NIMASA actually has a whole long list of accredited institutions that have been certified and deemed qualified to render training. The United Nations, of course, has the standards. There's the Convention for the Certification and Training of Seafarers, and this is also embodied in the Merchant Shipping Act of Nigeria, 2007. So it is clear that people cannot just be deployed to sea, cannot just be deployed to man vessels, or to take part in other areas of the shipping industry without adequate training. What we are to interrogate now is whether or not there is indeed adequacy of that training to service the blue economy, particularly as we expect that it expands in the future. We have to build human capacity to ensure safety of the blue economy. We've mentioned here, I noticed when I was running through some of the courses that are offered by these institutions, they offer courses such as first aid at sea. They offer courses on how to prevent or how to ensure maritime security or safety at sea. So, Dr. Okonma, can you please shed light on this subject for us? I think you are the most qualified at this stage.
Thank you. Thank you very much again, Madam Moderator. It's quite a large area to go into, but I will try to do justice to it within the time that is available to us. It's true that to provide safety for the blue economy, we need to build capacity. That realization was made by Nigeria a long time ago, when the Maritime Academy of Nigeria was established. The academy was established with certain functions statutorily assigned to it. One, to admit and train the various levels of personnel required to run and operate ships of the Merchant Navy, and also entrusted with the responsibility to provide technical manpower, maybe to be a little gender sensitive, we will say workforce training for marine engineering, for ports, for hydrography, and the rest of them, and any other kind of training. So the academy does that, but I will come to the specific question of the involvement of other persons. But permit me to talk about what the academy is doing, and then we will justify what other people are also doing. So the academy has done quite a lot in the area of its statutory mandate. Evidences of that abound in major organizations and institutions you have in the country and globally. I mean, if you want to know the impact of the academy's contribution to building human capacity, just take the statistics of ex-cadets of the academy that are working in NIMASA, or statistics of ex-cadets that are working in the MPA. And in particular, I want to mention this, the statistics of ex-cadets of Maritime Academy of Nigeria that are working in NLNG Ship Management Limited. Then you would appreciate what the academy has done, including stars that we celebrated here. Quite a lot of our ex-cadets are carrying out their duties in these institutions and organizations. So the standards ran into some trouble about 10 years ago, and I need to mention that. The industry was shouting about the declining standards at Maritime Academy of Nigeria, but the federal government responded very quickly to that and set up an interim management committee and appointed a new rector to the academy, because what actually happened was that politicians were trying to force themselves into the academy's leadership, and actually it falls down the standards. But since that federal government intervention and the appointment of the rector, the institution has been totally restructured and repositioned. Currently, the academy offers programs for training those who operate the industry at various levels, and we also have short courses in line with international conventions. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry.
No, thank you very much. I just wanted to ask, because I noticed that there's another maritime academy called the Nigerian Maritime University Okere Koko, yes, in Delta State. In fact, I noticed that that's one, in case anybody wants, I'm not advertising for them, but I know that I think they offer their own courses free of charge. I don't know, I saw a link recently that said anybody that wants to go there can go free of charge too. What I want to ask now is, these two academies, apart from, of course, the other, because I noticed that there are also private academies that offer all sorts of courses as well. And they are registered, and so they are approved by, accredited by NIMASA before they start business. So you have talked in your first introduction, you mentioned a lot, you talked a lot